Hey guys, it's your girl Carrie. Welcome back to my channel. I am doing something today I've never done before, and that is to apply a full cover tip to my nail. So I decided I'd go ahead and film this for you guys so that if you were interested in trying these out and you were wondering how difficult it was for a first timer to try, hopefully this video will be helpful to you. So I'm going to go through and show you my process, and then at the end I'll give you a quick little update on how they wore the first few weeks. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then stick around, we're getting into it. Okay guys, so the tips I'm going to be applying today are IGel Beauty's Pro Gel tips in medium Coffin. These are jelly tips. And the reason I chose these is because I've tried and loved a lot of products from IGel. So I figured this would be a good place to start. And I've also heard really good things about these tips also. So the plan was initially to try these out on my daughter, who has very short bitten nails, and see how they worked for her. I didn't intend on trying them myself first, but some things happened. So here we are. Let me tell you. So you might be looking at my right hand here saying, Carrie, you already have on jelly tips, so how could this be a first timer's trying it? Yes, I do, but I did the one hand this morning. It is now this evening, so I'm not cheating. This is still my first day of trying them. I just applied these, so I'm just gonna apply the other hand now because I have some work to do to fix it, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But yes, I did go ahead and apply the right hand, so those are already done, and now we'll go ahead and get into the application steps that I use to fix the left hand. So here's what's going on with the left hand. These were done here with some dual forms, and I was filming a first timers trying dual forms because I just assumed everything was going to go really well because I'm very comfortable with builder gel. I figured paper forms were probably more difficult than dual forms, so I just figured I had it in the bag. And boy, was it a nightmare. And you might look at these and they look okay. I mean, they're not the worst, but I'm not very happy with the shaping. I did what I could with what I had to work with, but I'm not happy with these at all. And I do plan to try out this kind of long oval shape, but not like this. I'm just really unhappy with these. I'm definitely not trying to discourage you from trying dual forms if you want to. I think the biggest issues that I had were the forms I was using were too narrow. The builder gel I was using was probably a little too thin. And so it was just oozing all over the place, and I just had a really hard time lining things up and building these long extensions with them. So honestly, I'm really not eager to try the dual forms again. Right now, I just need to step away because, like I said, the whole process made me so angry, and I'm not that kind of temper tantrum throwing kind of gal, but man, it was a show. I was very unhappy. So because of that, unfortunately, I had to cut down some of my nails in the process of trying to fix the mess with the dual forms, and I didn't feel like they were going to be sufficient enough for me to rebuild my paper form builder gel nails. So I decided this was probably a good opportunity to go ahead and try the jelly tips. So as you can see on my right hand there, the nails are pretty short. There's fortunately no damage to the nail bed, thank God. But the nails are pretty much down to nubs, so it is what it is. I'm not like super sad about it because my nails are otherwise in pretty healthy shape, and I know they'll grow back. Actually, my nails actually grow pretty fast, so I'm not super worried about it. I know eventually they'll get to the point to where I can put the paper forms back on, but for right now, this seemed like, you know, a good way to try the jelly tips and fix my problems at the same time. So all that aside, I did my homework. I went through and watched several videos and read several, instructions on how to do jelly tips, just so I felt like I would have a really good idea of what to do. So I feel like I'm better prepared for this. So let me open these up so you can take a look at what's inside here. So I have this sticky note in here with my sizes on there, so you can ignore that. But what you're going to get is this box of tips, and these are not your typical old school plastic tips. So they are technically still plastic because it's gel resin, but these are very thin and flexible and more easy to fit to the nail, I guess I would say. So you're going to get a total of 10 different sizes. These go from 0 to 10. I did not have any trouble finding my size. You're just going to go through with each finger and pick out a tip and see if you can get the size correct for your finger. And like I said, there's such a good variety in here. I don't think you'll have too much problem finding a size, but you can see here how much more flexible they are than your standard old school plastic tips. So these tips are well organized and come with the numbers on both the box and the tips themselves. And really quickly, I did just want to show you, these are the medium coffins. I did pick up a couple other sizes in case my daughter or I wanted to try them out. So let me show you those real quick if you're interested in any of their other tips. I also grabbed their short coffins because I wasn't really sure how long the mediums were going to be. And we thought we'd use the short coffins on my daughter, but even she's thinking now she wants the medium because they're not that much, they're not too long. I don't think the mediums are too long. The short is pretty short, even on me, and I have short nail beds, or shorter nail beds, I should say. So, you know, if you want something more of like a sport length, then I would say these would be pretty good for that. But if you want a little bit more significant length, then you're probably going to want the mediums or the longs. So if you just want to take a look at these side by side, I'll show you two pieces of the same size next to each other, the short and the medium. So yeah, the medium is a better size for me, but if you need shorter nails because of your work, or you just like to keep your nails a little on the shorter side, then I do think the shorts are a great option. They have several other options in the shorts, but I just grabbed the coffins. So I'm just laying the short over top of the long, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of the size difference. So they're pretty short. The other ones I grabbed here are the medium almonds, and so these are actually a pretty similar shape to the dual forms that I have on my left hand, although they do come to a little bit more of a tapered point. So these to me, like for medium, they don't seem that long to me. They seem more like a short, but I don't have the short almonds for comparison. But you know, once I actually put them on, you can see them up against this one. They're pretty much the same length. So something about, I guess, the shape of this that makes it look a little bit shorter. But these would be a nice option if you prefer the almond shape to the coffin. Okay, so let's get started. So you're going to need a couple of things to apply these tips other than just the tips. And a lot of these are going to be similar to the items I use for builder gel application. The first thing I have here is my protein bond. IGel makes their own, but I'm using Young Nails just because I know it and love it, and it doesn't fail me. So this is a really good way to get gel products to adhere to your nail. It is technically optional, but I would highly recommend you use anything you can use to help them suckers stay on, but that's just my opinion. Then you're also going to need your gel base, and gel top coat is optional but preferable if you're going to use peel base. But I'm using iGels here again because I know it and love it and trust it. It's pretty much the only thing I use these days when it comes to gel. And just on a side note, I'm not sponsored. IGel Beauty has no idea who I am. I'm just a big fan of their gel products. They make great gel products. I've also got my very well loved diamond wireless lamp here. I probably need to replace this soon. It's been very, very well loved, but I just love it. It's such a great lamp, and IGel sells that one also, and I love that it's wireless. And then in addition to that, you're going to need whatever you're going to apply your tips with. So I have both their Pro Gel pen here and their Pro Gel in a bottle. I wanted to try this out because I'd heard really good things about it. But you don't have to use this. You could use a builder in a bottle or a builder in a pot to apply it. This is more like a builder gel. Like, it reminds me of a clear builder gel. In fact, I'd be very curious to know the difference between this and their clear builder gel. But I wanted to try it because, like I said, I'd heard really good things about longevity with this. So I figured it was worth a go since I was going to try these for the first time. And the pen form is just the exact same product, just in a pen. And I grabbed this just because they've got them deeply discounted right now. I think I got this for a couple of dollars, so I thought it might be handy with some of the smaller tips to kind of really get in there with this little brush. They do have one more product that is completely optional, but I felt like it would be very helpful to have, and that is this flash cure lamp. And this actually wasn't very expensive, but it is only a 3-watt lamp. It does have a little sensor in the bottom. It's not really a motion sensor. You kind of have to gently press the bottom of something, your hand or your finger, to the sensor to get it to the light to come on. But I thought it would be helpful just to have it to flash cure the tips on, just to get them in place, and then I could finish fully curing them in my regular lamp. Just a couple things to get out of the way before we get started. I'm going to have to remove these before I put these jelly tips on, so I will have to cut these down and then file them down. I'm not going to soak in acetone. I just don't have the patience for that, but I will get this down to a very, very thin layer so that it won't interfere with the application of the jelly tips. But I just want to state out front that I am not a professional. I am a DIYer. I would figure that was pretty obvious from my splash page intro, which says that I'm a DIY dipper. But just in case you're curious, I am not a professional. I just studied a lot on how to apply these, so I'm applying them in the way that I've seen lots of people who have had success with these apply. So hopefully this will go well. At least it can't go any worse than the dual forms. Seeing my nails as short really makes me cringe, I'm gonna be honest with you. But I've got these filed down thin enough so that I can go ahead and apply my tips over top. So any scuffing or what looks like damage to you, it's actually just the little bit of layer of leftover builder gel, but the nail beds are healthy. So what I'm going to do now is start taking these tips and size them. So I want to show you what you're looking for when you're sizing these. It's going to be kind of hard for you to see from this angle, but what I'm trying to do is get these to fit from sidewall to sidewall. You don't want there to be any gap between your natural nail and the tips, so make sure they go all the way from sidewall to sidewall. If you have one that's a little too big and the next size down is a little too small, then take the larger one, and you're going to want to just kind of file the edges to get it to fit. So most of these fit pretty well without me having to do much filing, but there were a few that were just a little bit like a hair bigger than my actual nail bed. So I just took my nail file and I just sized them down a little bit. So I will show that to you. But really all you're going to do before you get started is just go through each of your fingers and find the proper size tip for each finger. All right, once you got your sizes, then start taking each nail and fit it to the nail bed and see where you need to do any kind of cleaning up. So these actually fit my nail beds pretty well, though some of my beds are a little more rounded and some are a little more flat. So I'm gonna have to go through each one of these and see what I need to do to get them to fit properly. So in this case, the width was fine. It was just more the shape on the bottom that I needed to clean up a little bit to get it to fit right. So I'm just taking my hand file here and cleaning that up. And guys, these files super easy, so don't feel like you're stuck with whatever shape you got. You can definitely take your hand file and clean it up quick. Once you're happy with the way that one's fitting, then you can go ahead and move on to the next ones and do the exact same things. All right, so I've got all 5 of them here. I've already cleaned up the bottom so that they fit properly to my nail bed, and if there was any work on the side walls that I needed to do to thin them out a little bit, all that's been done. So now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to etch the underside of this tip that is going to actually be adhering to my nail bed. So it kind of helps to kind of eyeball this, line it up again, and just see about where you need to etch the tip. You don't need to etch it all the way up. I mean, you can, but you don't need to. It's really only the part that's going to attach to your actual nail bed or your nail, your existing nail, that you're going to need to make sure you etch it a little bit just to kind of help it to stick a bit better. So I'm going to be using my IGel Beauty Model XS. This is an investment, you guys, I know. So I will have a cheaper Melody Susie option on Amazon linked for you down below. But I do not regret having this at all. It's just such a game changer for me. And what I'm using here is more of like a tapered diamond bit. You don't want anything so like strong that's going to really chew into it. Just a little something that's just going to gently etch it. So a diamond bit should be just fine. And I've got this on 15 RPM. So all I'm going to do is take this and just like I said, etch the underneath that is going to attach to my nail. So I'll just kind of put this up about as high as I think it needs, and then I will hold it up to my thumbnail and see if I need to go a bit higher until I get it right about where I need to. So if you just etch the underside of this good enough, make sure you get the side walls, and then I take the pointy part of this bit, and towards the very end I kind of thin it out a little bit in that cuticle area, just so that it's not very thick. And these tips are really well made, so they're already pretty thin at the cuticle area, but I just thinned it out just a little bit more just to make sure it looks really nice and flush. All right, once that one looks good, then you'll go ahead and move on to the other ones and do the exact same thing. All right, I got my tips all etched, so I'm just going to go ahead and wipe these nails down one more time with an alcohol wipe since things have gotten a little bit dusty here. And just to be clear, if you're doing these on your natural nail, I know I have a little bit of layer of builder gel here on my remaining nail, but the process is going to be the exact same as if you were doing these on your natural nail. So you can follow these if you're doing that, if you don't have any existing product on your nail. So of course you want to do your normal prep. You're going to push back your cuticles. I don't have any cuticle cleanup to do because I already did that when I was trying to put on those stinking dual forms. So, but if you need to go over your cuticles with a cuticle bit or a glass file just to get everything cleaned up, then do that first. So I'm going to go ahead now and apply my protein bonds. So this one applies in 2 layers. So I will apply 1 layer, let it dry for a few seconds, and then go back in and apply the second layer. And this doesn't take very long to dry, but again, this is just going to help the gel products stick a little bit better to your natural nail. Now granted, I don't technically really need this because there is a thin layer of builder gel on my nail, but in case there are any bits of my actual nail that are exposed, this will make sure that the gel adheres to those areas. All right, so once my protein bond has had a bit of time to dry, we're gonna go ahead and apply our gel base coat. Now this is not the Pro Gel base, this is just the gel base coat. And according to IGel, they say that this step is optional, but again, I'm very much into doing anything I can do to get the product to stick to my nail. So if I take a few extra steps just to double check to make sure, then it's worth it for me, because I am somebody who is very hard on my hands and I can't be replacing tips every other day because they're popping off. So got the protein bond. I'm going to put down a layer of gel base. I'm going to cure this as normal in my full-size lamp, and then we will get on to applying the tips. All right, so now we're just going to take our edge tip and our Pro Gel base, or if you're using your builder gel, you'll take your builder gel. And once again, I recommend something that is not too thin. And I want you to take a look at the consistency of this, because you can see it is a builder in a bottle kind of format, but it is a little bit thicker and stickier. So I find this to be very ideal, and I'll give you more of an update at the end, but I thought this was a very ideal product for applying the tips because it doesn't ooze out as easily, and I feel like it stays in place a little bit better, and it definitely worked as far as longevity goes. So like I said, I'll give you more of an update on that here in a little bit. But whatever you're using, you're just going to take a small amount and put it just in that edged area. You don't need to go all the way up on the tip, just where you're going to put it onto your nail. And you want to keep the application just a little bit thinner towards the cuticle area, because you only need a little bit there. You don't want to have a whole bunch down there at the bottom, because then it's more likely to ooze out. You can probably see I'm pushing the majority of this more towards the middle of the nail where that natural apex would be. And that is because these already have a really great apex built in. So I want to make sure there's enough product in that area where it's gonna have to fill the gap between my natural nail and the apex is built into this tip. All right, so the moment of truth. So you're going to apply this from the cuticle area and push upwards. You want to start with that area, not from the top down, because that's probably going to lead to oozing of the gel out of the tip. So start at the bottom and push upwards, and the goal is to try to get all the air bubbles out. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This was my first one on this hand, and I did have a small air bubble towards the top, which I will have to keep an eye on. But keep in mind, if you need to take this off, wipe it down and do it again. Do it as many times as it takes to get it to where you're happy with it. So once you've got it where you're happy with it, go ahead and pop it into the flash cure lamp or whatever lamp you're using. Give it maybe 12 to 15 seconds. That was all I needed just for this 3-watt lamp. And then I'm going to pull it out and flip my nail over and clean up any gel that's left there to kind of try to smooth it out so there's not a big pool of gel underneath. Okay, so you can probably see the air bubble here towards the top of the nail. That's unfortunate, but again, this is all very new to me. So, you know, things like that are gonna happen. It's something I'm just gonna keep an eye on. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in the lamp. If it starts to get bigger, then I will have to remove it, but I will just keep an eye on this and see how it goes. It's more towards the tip of the nail, so I'm hoping it's not gonna cause me too much issue, but again, that's probably because I didn't apply quite enough gel base before I applied this tip. So what I should have done, if I had seen it, which I didn't because my thumb was covering it, is I would have wiped it off and done it again. But you know, like I said, you're gonna have a few issues here or there when you're doing this for the first time, and that's to be expected. So give yourself a little bit of a break. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the other fingers here. So I'm starting with the gel base on these fingers, which I have not applied yet. These only have protein bond on them. I'm trying to do these one at a time just so that I don't have to worry about stuff getting stuck into my gel base while I'm doing another nail. So I'm just putting on my gel base as usual and then curing. All right, just like before, I'm gonna go ahead and put my gel base onto the tip. I'm trying to focus it more towards the middle, put a little bit less at the cuticle area, but maybe just a little bit more liquid than last time so that I don't have to worry about air bubbles. All right, so you can see I got a much better application this time. I don't have any air bubbles. I have a little bit of gel coming out the top, but it's nothing really severe. So I'm good with this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and flash cure this one. And then after 15 seconds again, I'm going to take my brush and kind of smooth out any of the gel that's kind of left over on the top. And it's still soft enough for me to do that, just to make sure there's not a big clump of gel kind of just sitting there underneath. And then I'll go ahead and pop it into my lamp and finish fully curing it. I'm curing these for a full 60 seconds, but the time is going to depend on whatever product you're using and the wattage of your lamp. So you're going to have to just go by that. All right, so I'm going to speed through the rest of these. We'll get the rest of these nails applied. And while we do that, I'm going to tell you about some things that I learned and give you my thoughts on these tips as well. First thing I want to say is I really do like the consistency of this Pro Base. It made it easy to apply the tips, and I really do like the tips. I think they're very comfortable to wear. I think they're nicely shaped. They have a good C curve and a nicely built apex, which makes it easier to get your shape correct. So really good first impressions on both of those products. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that you're going to have to expect that as a beginner, you're going to have a few issues here or there. You may have an air bubble, or you may have a nail that's slightly crooked. But if you get past all that, I would say that for a beginner, these are actually easier to apply than I thought they were going to be. I expected these to be way more difficult than doing builder gel with forms or even with the dual forms. And I did not find this nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be. So if you're wanting to try this and you're afraid it's going to be too difficult, I would say go ahead and give it a go, especially if you've tried builder gel. It's really not that much different from that same process. You're just adding the tip to it. All right, so everything's all done. Everything feels nice and secure and firm. So I'm pretty happy with these. I do have an air bubble on 2 fingers. They are small. I'm going to keep an eye on them. If they start to get bigger or I start to experience any lifting, I will remove them and fix them. But for now, they feel pretty good and nicely in place. I'm not going to worry too much about it yet. So at this point, if you want to do any final shaping to clean things up, then go ahead and do that. You probably want to do most of your shaping before you apply them, but once they're on, you can shape them just like anything else. So don't be afraid to do a little bit of shaping here if you need to clean it up a bit. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you've heard me complaining about the shape. It's not the gel tips, it was me. I didn't do enough shaping, and because of that, I didn't like the shape that it was. I felt like it was a little bit too squared off for my liking. I felt like it made my nails look a little clunky. So I don't know why I felt like I couldn't file them right away. I felt like I was just kind of stuck with the shape of the nail. It's not so. These really do file so smoothly, just like builder gel. So what I should have done is just filed them a bit more and I would have been fine with it. And I've since done that, but you know, don't be afraid to do a bit of filing to clean up the shape. It's not that big a deal. These file actually really, really well. All right, so now at this point, you're going to take either your e-file or your hand file. If you're going to use your e-file, then I would say use a fine diamond bit. And you're going to go around the edge of the cuticles and the sidewalls and clean up anything that looks a little bumpy or any excess gel that has oozed out. You're going to want to go around the edge of that and clean that up so that you're not stuck with that. All right, you got a couple of options for finishing steps here. So I'm going to tell you what some people do, and I'm going to tell you what I did. So you probably, whatever you're going to do, are going to want to scuff these up just a little bit, because otherwise if you put dip over top of these just smooth the way they are, it's probably going to come flying off. Same thing with gel polish. It may not come off right away, but it's not going to adhere as well as you want. So you're probably going to want to scratch this up a little bit. So I'm going to use my e-file here, and I'm going to use a very fine diamond bit, again, just to scuff them up. But if you want to use your hand file, you could definitely do that. But just to get your products to adhere a bit, you probably don't want them super duper smooth. Now, if you're using peel base, a lot of people will just scuff these up and then put the peel base over top of that. And I'm going to tell you right now, that did not work for me at all. In fact, the peel base would not come off at all. I had to actually take off all the nails and redo the nails, which was kind of frustrating. But unfortunately, that is the learning curve when you're trying things for the first time. So I did my usual 1 layer, nothing came off, it didn't work. So I probably could have just fixed that by adding some additional layers, but I tried something on the right hand a little bit differently, and I liked how that worked better. What I did was exactly what I'm doing now. I scuffed them up, but then I put a layer of gel base and a layer of gel top coat over top, and then put my peel base over that. Now that may seem a little excessive, given I probably could have just put it over the smooth nail and not scuffed this thing up at all. But the reason why I think I'm going to keep doing that is because I found it worked well with removal, as far as like not having a lot of residue left on the nail. And also it kind of gave a little protective layer between my my mani and the the jelly tip. So that way when I was doing my removal, I was doing the peel base and I had to do a little cleanup filing, I still wasn't affecting my jelly tip. I was just kind of scuffing up the gel base and gel top I had over the top of that. So just food for thought. You do it however you want to do it. I would say experiment with it and try it out. If you're not using peel base at all, then you can forget all that and just scuff these up and then go into your dip mani. But that's really going to depend on what you're going to want to do with these. Me personally, I just like being able to change out my mani more often, and I like not having to remove these jelly tips and reapply them every time I do that. So peel base just gives me an option to change out my manis more quickly without having to remove and redo the jelly tips. Alright, so I know this one got a little long and I'm sorry for that, but I didn't want to leave anything out in case you were seriously thinking about trying jelly tips for the first time. I hope what I have shown you here is that for somebody who has never ever applied tips to her nail in her entire life, I hope that this demonstrates to you that it's not as difficult as you might think it would be, and that if you're thinking about trying it, I definitely think you should go for it. This whole process was far less difficult than I expected it to be, and I'm happy with the finished look, albeit after cleaning up the shape a little bit more on me. But as far as the tips themselves go, I felt like everything went on really well. I did not feel like it was super difficult, and I'm happy with the finished result. So like I said, I hope this shows you that if you're wanting to try it, that you shouldn't be afraid of it. You should definitely go for it. It's definitely something you can do as a beginner. I think the biggest difficulties you're going to run into as a beginner are avoiding the air bubbles and getting the nail tip on straight. But keep in mind, as a beginner, you're always going to run into little things here or there. And I really do think that with practice and more application, you're going to be a pro at this, and you're not going to even have to worry about that anymore. So I'm closing this video out here with an update. This is 2 weeks after I applied the tips, and you can see that they look a little rough because they've gone through a few manis and I've had to clean them up a little bit, especially around the cuticle area. But other than that, there is no lifting to speak of. Everything is still securely attached. I've had a couple manis that I've popped off, and these are still looking really good. They don't need a fill yet. When they do, I will probably try it with some builder gel. But as of right now, I mean, they haven't grown out enough for me to warrant doing that yet. But just want you to see that these have held up supremely well, considering that I am very rough on my hands and I change out my manis quite frequently with peel base. Okay guys, so that is going to complete this video. So I hope you did find it helpful and enjoyed it. If you did, it would help me out so much if you would give me a thumbs up down below. And while you're there, if you have not subscribed already, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. And don't forget that notification bell. We got new content coming every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Central. And as always, guys, thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I appreciate it so very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.